The Arizona sun beat down mercilessly on the dusty shooting range at Fort Huachuca. 6 elite marksmen lay prone behind their rifles, their scopes trained on targets positioned at 1,600 meters. One by one, they fired. 6 shots, 6 misses. "Damn wind," muttered Captain Reynolds, the youngest of the group at 35. "No one's making this shot today." A black SUV appeared on the horizon, kicking up clouds of desert dust as it approached. The vehicle stopped, and the door opened to reveal Michael Reeves, 58 years old, his weathered face telling stories that his mouth never would. Gray hair cut military short, eyes hidden behind aviator sunglasses that had gone out of style decades ago, but somehow looked timeless on him. "Gentlemen," announced Colonel Lewis, the range supervisor, "this is Michael Reeves, former Special Activities Division. He'll be evaluating your progress today." Reynolds snorted. "With all due respect, sir, isn't he a bit outdated for this assessment?" Reeves approached slowly, his right hand resting slightly awkwardly at his side. An old injury that never healed right. He surveyed the targets through binoculars, then turned to the rangemaster. "Move the target back," he said quietly. "Sir?" The rangemaster looked confused. "Move it back to 2,200 meters. Reynolds laughed outright now. "Sir, none of us could hit it at 1,600. No one's making a 2,200-meter shot in these conditions." Reeves didn't acknowledge the comment. He waited as the range crew repositioned the target, then approached the firing position. He didn't lie down like the others had. Instead, he took a standing position, raised the rifle, a weathered Macmillan TAC-50 that looked like it had seen better days, and without a spotter, without rangefinders, without even checking the wind flags, he fired once. 8 seconds later, the impact flag waved, dead center. The range fell silent. Reeves handed the rifle back to the stunned rangemaster. "You're all aiming for where the target is. You need to aim for where it's going to be." As he walked away, Captain Reynolds found his voice. How did you know about the wind patterns?" Reeves paused. "I didn't serve in Operation Desert Storm, son. I served in Operation Desert Shield, the one nobody talks about. 6 months before your war began, in these same deserts, tracking Soviet agents. You learn to read the sand when your life depends on it." That evening, Michael Reeves sat on the porch of his modest Montana cabin, nursing a glass of bourbon and staring at the mountains. The demonstration today had been a mistake. He'd promised himself he was done with that life, done with the agency, done with the killing. 15 years of silence broken because some bureaucrat in Langley had tracked him down, claiming they needed his expertise. His right hand throbbed with phantom pain, the result of a snapped tendon and 3 crushed fingers from a mission gone wrong in Odessa, 1989. The doctors had said he'd never shoot again. They had been wrong, but every pull of the trigger was a reminder of what he'd lost. The sound of tires on gravel drew his attention. Another black SUV. They never changed their methods. From it emerged a figure Reeves had not seen in nearly 2 decades. James Harrington, now 78, leaning on a cane but still ramrod straight and bearing. "They told me you'd refuse to come to Langley," Harrington said, approaching the porch. "So I came to you instead." "You're a long way from your desk, James," Reeves replied, not getting up. "Not my desk anymore. I retired 5 years ago." Harrington eased himself into the chair beside Reeves. "They only brought me back because of Nightshade." The word hung in the air like a thunderclap. Reeves's hand tightened around his glass. "Nightshade was buried," he said flatly. "Everyone involved is dead, except us." "And Volkov," Harrington replied. Reeves set down his glass carefully. "Volkov died in that explosion in Odessa. I saw the building go down. The Russians are very good at faking deaths, Michael. Better than we are." Harrington reached into his jacket and produced a manila envelope. From it, he drew a photograph and handed it to Reeves. The image showed a young woman, mid-20s, brown hair, determined expression. Something about her eyes. "That's Jennifer Carson," Harrington said quietly. "Thomas Carson's daughter." The name hit Reeves like a physical blow. Thomas Carson, his spotter, his partner, his friend. The man who'd saved his life in Pripyat and died doing it. The man whose hand he'd been holding when the light went out of his eyes. "Jenny," Reeves whispered. "She was 5 when Tom died. She grew up to become one of our best analysts. Was tracking financial movements linked to former Soviet intelligence officers. 3 days ago, she disappeared from her apartment in Vienna. This morning, we received this." Harrington handed over a phone showing a video. The same woman, bound to a chair, a bruise darkening her left cheek. Behind her, a figure in shadow speaking Russian, with an accent Reeves recognized instantly. "You took something from me, American," the voice said. "Now I take something from you." The video ended, replaced by coordinates and a countdown. 72 hours. "Volkov blames the agency for the death of his son during Nightshade," Harrington explained. "But this isn't just about revenge. Jenny had uncovered evidence that he's planning something. Something big. The kind of operation that changes maps and history books." Reeves stood, walking to the edge of the porch. "Why me, James? You have an entire agency of trained operatives." "Because Volkov asked for you specifically. Because you're the only one who knows what really happened in Odessa. And because," Harrington's voice softened, "because you made a promise to Thomas to look after his daughter if anything happened to him." The weight of those words pressed down on Reeves's shoulders. A promise made in a forgotten corner of Ukraine to a dying man. A promise he'd kept by sending birthday cards and Christmas gifts from afar, never introducing himself, never becoming part of her life. He'd convinced himself it was better that way. "My hand," Reeves began, "still made that shot today, from what I hear. I got lucky." "Bullshit," Harrington said sharply. "That wasn't luck. That was muscle memory. That was 30 years of being the best we had." Reeves turned back to face his old commander. "I haven't held a rifle for more than a shooting range demonstration in 15 years, James. I'm not the man I was." "No," Harrington agreed. "You're not. You're better. Because now you have something that young hothead never had. Patience, wisdom, the kind that only comes with age and loss." The sun was setting now, painting the Montana sky in shades of fire. "One last mission," Harrington said quietly. "For Thomas, for his daughter, for the oath we both took a lifetime ago." Reeves closed his eyes, feeling the weight of the decision. When he opened them again, something had changed in their depths. The retired marksman was gone, replaced by something harder, something lethal. "I'll need 3 things," Reeves said. "My old kit, a secure facility to train, and you as my handler. Nobody else." Harrington nodded, the ghost of a smile crossing his weathered face. "Welcome back, Silent Guardian." The CIA training facility in West Virginia was nestled deep in the Appalachian Mountains, far from prying eyes. For the past 2 weeks, it had become Reeves' personal hell and salvation. Every morning began before dawn, physical conditioning to rebuild strength lost to age, stretching to combat the stiffness in his joints, and endless hours behind the scope. "Again," Harrington commanded from his position as spotter. Reeves exhaled slowly, focusing on the target 1,800 meters distant. His right hand screamed in protest as he squeezed the trigger. The bullet struck 2 inches left of center. "Wind shifted at the last second," said a female voice behind them. Sarah Coleman, 42, approached with a tablet displaying atmospheric readings. The CIA's weapons specialist had initially regarded Reeves with thinly veiled skepticism, but that had given way to professional respect over the past 14 days. 2 inches at 1,800 meters is still an effective shot," she noted, kneeling beside them. Not good enough, Reeves muttered, already reloading. The extraction team only needs you to hit within a foot of target to create the necessary diversion, Sarah reminded him. That's not how I operate. Operated, she corrected. Past tense. You've been out of the game a long time, Reeves. He turned to look at her, his eyes cold. And yet here we are, because your new generation couldn't track Volkov when he resurfaced. That's enough, both of you, Harrington interjected. Sarah, what's the latest intel on the compound? She pulled up satellite imagery on her tablet. Thermal scanning confirms approximately 20 guards. The building where we believe they're holding Jennifer is here, on the eastern side. Exterior walls are reinforced concrete, but there's a window on the second floor. That's your sightline, Reeves. You'll need to take position here, on this ridgeline, 2,300 meters out. Reeves studied the terrain. That's exposed. Unnatural firing position. And the angle's wrong. I'd have to compensate for significant elevation. It's the only approach that won't trigger their perimeter sensors, Sarah replied. What about extraction? Harrington asked. Once Reeves eliminates the primary targets and disables the communications array, a 6-man tactical team will move in from the north. Estimated time from Reeves's first shot to reaching Jennifer, 7 minutes. Too long, Reeves said flatly. It's the best we can do with the resources we've been allocated, Sarah responded, frustration edging her voice. Director Collins is still unconvinced this operation is worth the risk. Collins? Harrington spat the name. The man's never spent a day in the field. He's also the one signing the checks, Sarah reminded them, and he's made it clear. This is a deniable operation. If anything goes wrong, you're on your own. Reeves turned back to his rifle, making minute adjustments to the scope. Nothing new there. As Sarah walked away, Harrington lowered his voice. You're being hard on her. She's good at her job. She's never worked with someone like Volkov, Reeves replied. None of them have. They don't understand what he's capable of. Then educate them, Harrington said. Starting with her. Reeves watched Sarah retreat across the firing range. She reminds me of Carson. Too smart for her own good. That's why she's here, Harrington said. I requested her specifically. She thinks like Jennifer. Might give us insight into what the girl discovered that got Volkov's attention. Reeves nodded, then winced as pain lanced through his hand. He flexed the fingers, trying to work through it. It's getting worse, Harrington observed. I'll manage. Will you? This isn't a demonstration, Michael. When the time comes, there's no room for error. Reeves met his old commander's gaze. I've never missed a shot that mattered. There's always a first time. Not this time, Reeves said, his voice hardening. I owe Thomas this. I owe his daughter. Harrington studied him for a long moment, then nodded. All right. Let's run the sequence again. Full simulation this time. That night, Reeves sat alone in his quarters, field stripping his rifle by the light of a single lamp. The familiar ritual brought a sense of calm he couldn't find elsewhere. Each component cleaned, oiled, inspected, reassembled with practiced precision. His hands moved on their own, guided by decades of muscle memory. A knock at the door interrupted his meditation. Enter, he called. Sarah stepped in, carrying 2 cups of coffee and a folder tucked under her arm. Working late? Reeves asked, accepting one of the cups. Always, she replied, setting the folder on the table. I've been analyzing Jennifer's research. I think I found what got her flagged by Volkov's people. She opened the folder to reveal financial records, shipping manifests, and satellite images. Jennifer was tracking uranium shipments. Small amounts, nothing that would trigger international monitoring protocols. But when you aggregate the data, she laid out several documents side by side. Someone's been quietly assembling the components for a dirty bomb, not large enough to destroy a city, but perfectly sized to contaminate a water supply. Reeves studied the evidence. Volkov's too practical for terrorism. He's a soldier, not a zealot. Agreed, but what if the target isn't a population center? Sarah pointed to a satellite image of a rural area. This is the Ogallala Aquifer. It supplies drinking water to 8 states, including most of America's agricultural heartland. Contaminated here, at this nexus point, and you could create an agricultural collapse that would take decades to recover from. Economic warfare, Reeves murmured. That's always been his specialty. Jennifer must have figured it out. That's why they took her. Reeves's eyes narrowed. Or she has something they need. Access codes, authentication credentials? Possibly, Sarah agreed. Either way, this operation just got a lot more complicated than a simple extraction. Reeves was silent for a moment, processing the implications. Does Harrington know? Not yet. I wanted your assessment first. Why? Sarah hesitated. Because Harrington has history with Volkov. Personal history. I needed an objective perspective. Reeves' eyes hardened. What aren't you telling me? Before she could answer, an explosion rocked the building. The lights went out, plunging them into darkness. Alarms began to wail in the distance. Perimeter breach! A voice shouted from the hallway, followed by gunfire. Reeves moved with surprising speed for his age, grabbing his pistol from the bedside table. Stay here, he ordered Sarah. Like hell, she replied, drawing her own weapon. They moved into the corridor together, advancing toward the sounds of combat. The emergency lights cast everything in a red glow, creating more shadows than illumination. Harrington, Reeves said suddenly, changing direction. His quarters are on the east wing. They found Harrington's door ajar, signs of a struggle evident in the overturned furniture. The old man lay on the floor, blood seeping from a wound in his side. James! Reeves knelt beside him, checking the injury. Professionals, Harrington gasped. 4-man team. Knew exactly where to find me. How bad? Sarah asked, covering the door. Through and through. Missed the vital organs. Harrington grimaced. But I'm not running any marathons. Reeves helped him to a sitting position, propped against the wall. Who sent them? Not Volkov, Harrington said, his breathing labored. This was internal. CIA? Sarah's voice was incredulous. That's impossible. Nothing's impossible in our business, Miss Coleman, Harrington replied. Michael, the safe. Behind the painting. Reeves moved to the indicated wall, revealing a hidden safe. Combination. Your daughter's birthday, the one you never had. Reeves froze for a fraction of a second, then entered a date. The safe opened to reveal a hard drive and a vintage Makarov pistol. Everything Jennifer discovered is on that drive, Harrington explained, including the mole's identity. I've suspected for months, needed proof. A fresh burst of gunfire closer now. Go, Harrington ordered, accepting the Makarov from Reeves. I'll buy you time. I'm not leaving you, Reeves protested. You made a promise to Thomas, Harrington reminded him. Now I'm asking for the same. Finish this, Michael, for all of us who gave our lives to this shadow war. Their eyes met. Two old warriors who had seen too much, sacrificed too much. A lifetime of operations, decisions, regrets, and rare triumphs passed between them in that glance. I'll come back for you, Reeves said finally. Harrington's smile was grim. No, you won't. Now go. Become the Guardian again. 48 hours later, Reeves and Sarah crouched on a rocky outcropping in the mountains of Uzbekistan, overlooking a Soviet-era military installation that had officially ceased to exist in 1991. The setting sun cast long shadows across the complex, creating patches of darkness that seemed to breathe with malevolent life. Satellite confirms Jennifer is being held in the main building, second floor, Sarah reported, studying her tablet. Thermal imaging shows 2 guards outside her door, 2 more patrolling the hallway. Reeves adjusted his position slightly, easing the pressure on his right arm. The mountain crossing had aggravated his old injury, but he'd refused painkillers. He needed clarity, not comfort. Distance to primary target, he asked, referring to the communications array that needed to be disabled. 2,140 meters. Wind from the northwest, 12 feet with gusts to 17. Temperature dropping with sunset, about 68 degrees now. We'll hit 55 by full dark. Reeves digested the information, making mental calculations. And Volkov? No visual confirmation yet, but intelligence suggests he's on site, probably in the command center here. She pointed to a bunker-like structure adjacent to the main building. He won't be in the command center, Reeves said with certainty. That's too obvious. Check thermal for any isolated heat signatures. Minimal movement, single occupant. Sarah adjusted the settings on her tablet, scanning the complex. There, northeastern quadrant, small outbuilding, one heat signature, stationary. Reeves nodded. That's our man. Volkov always positions himself with a clear escape route and maximum defensible position. He's outside your line of sight from here. I know, Reeves continued his methodical preparation, checking and rechecking his equipment. The rifle, a modern Barrett MRAD, was a far cry from his old TAC-50, but the principles remained the same. Physics didn't change, even if the technology did. The extraction team is in position, Sarah reported. They'll move on your signal. Reeves didn't respond immediately. His focus had narrowed to the task at hand, his breathing slowing as he entered the mental state that had once made him legendary within the agency. The outside world fell away. No pain in his hand, no concern about betrayal, no fear for Jennifer's safety. Only the shot existed. Range me, he said quietly. Sarah activated the laser rangefinder. 2,942 meters to primary target. Wind? Northwest at 14 km/h, gusting to 18. Temperature? 65 degrees, falling. Reeves made final adjustments to his scope, compensating for distance, drop, wind drift, the Coriolis effect, and a dozen other variables that would influence the bullet's path over more than 2 kilometers of flight. Time hack, he requested. Synchronizing, Mark. Operations commencing in 3 minutes. Reeves settled deeper into position, finding his natural point of aim. The crosshairs steadied on the communications array, specifically the power junction box that would disable the entire system without alerting the backup generators. 1 minute, Sarah whispered. Reeves began his breathing cycle. Inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4. The technique he'd learned as a young sniper, perfected over thousands of hours behind a rifle. 30 seconds. His finger took up the slack in the trigger, finding that perfect pressure point just before release. 10 seconds. 5, 3, 2, 1. Execute. Reeves exhaled half his breath and held. Between heartbeats, in that perfect moment of stillness, he squeezed the trigger. The rifle's report echoed across the valley. Through the scope, Reeves watched the bullet's impact. Dead center on the junction box. Sparks erupted, followed by darkness spreading across sections of the compound. Hit confirmed, Sarah announced. Communications down. Extraction team moving in. Reeves was already reacquiring his second target, a guard tower positioned to cover the extraction team's approach. Another breath cycle, another perfect squeeze. The guard slumped forward, invisible to anyone without a sniper's optics. Second confirmed. Adjustment for third target? Sarah checked her tablet. Shift right 30 meters, generator building. 2 hostiles emerging, armed with assault rifles. Reeves pivoted smoothly, located the targets. 2 shots in rapid succession, a technical feat few snipers could manage at this distance. Both men fell. Team is at the perimeter fence, Sarah reported. 30 seconds to building entrance. Reeves continued his lethal rhythm, eliminating threats with mechanical precision. Each shot was perfect. No wasted rounds, no missed targets. The years had not dulled his skills. They had refined them, distilled them to their purest form. Team has breached the main entrance, proceeding to second floor. A new voice crackled over their radio. Silent Guardian, this is Extraction Leader. We're encountering heavier resistance than expected. Request additional support at the main stairwell. Reeves acquired the new target area, identifying 3 hostiles converging on the stairwell. 3 more shots, 3 more confirmations. Path cleared, he reported. Team proceeding to target room. 20 seconds. Suddenly, Sarah grabbed Reeves's arm. Movement in the northeast outbuilding. Volkov is on the move. Reeves swung his rifle to the new location, catching a glimpse of a figure emerging from the structure Sarah had identified earlier. Even at this distance, something in the man's bearing was instantly familiar. Positive ID on Volkov, Reeves confirmed, his voice tight. He's heading for the helicopter pad. Extraction team, be advised, Sarah transmitted. Primary hostile is moving toward extraction point. Possible intercept with your exit route. Understood, came the reply. We have the package. Proceeding to extraction point now. Through his scope, Reeves watched Jennifer being led from the building, surrounded by the tactical team. She was walking under her own power, a good sign, but Volkov's path would intersect with theirs in less than a minute. I need to take the shot, Reeves said, already adjusting his aim. Wait, Sarah cautioned. Extraction team is in your line of fire. They won't be in 10 seconds, and then I'll have a 3-second window before Volkov reaches cover. Sarah hesitated, then nodded. Your call, Guardian. Reeves tracked Volkov's movement, leading the target slightly to account for his pace. The distance was extreme, over 2,500 meters now, at the very edge of the rifle's effective range. The shot would require perfect execution and more than a little luck. The extraction team cleared his line of fire. Volkov was 5 steps from safety. Reeves breathed out, held, and fired. The bullet traveled for nearly 9 seconds, an eternity in a sniper's world. In those 9 seconds, Reeves knew he had made a mistake. A subtle shift in the wind, a fraction of a degree in temperature change. Something had altered the bullet's path. Through his scope, he saw the round impact just behind Volkov, sending concrete fragments flying. The Russian security officer dove for cover, but not before turning to scan the ridgeline where Reeves was positioned. Even at that impossible distance, their eyes seemed to meet. Recognition, acknowledgement. The continuation of a duel begun decades ago. I missed, Reeves said, disbelief in his voice. Extraction team is clear, Sarah reported, ignoring his rare failure. Proceeding to rendezvous point. ETA 18 minutes. Reeves began to break down his position, his movements precise but tinged with frustration. Volkov saw me. Impossible at this distance. He knows it was me. He's always known. As if to confirm his words, their radio crackled with a new transmission. Not from the extraction team, but on an open frequency. A voice speaking Russian-accented English. Hello, Michael. It has been a long time. Sarah's eyes widened. How did he get this frequency? Reeves picked up the radio. Not long enough, Alexei. A chuckle came through the speaker. Still the perfect shot. Almost perfect, I should say. Age affects us all, does it not? You won't escape, Reeves replied. Every intelligence agency in the world knows about your plans for the Ogallala Aquifer now. A long pause. Ah, Jennifer Carson. Clever girl. Like her father. Another pause. Did James Harrington tell you the truth, Michael? About Operation Nightshade? About Thomas Carson's death? Don't engage, Sarah warned. He's stalling for time. But Reeves couldn't help himself. What truth? Ask your new CIA friend about Project Stillwater. Ask her why Harrington was really shot. Ask her who really gave the order in Odessa. Volkov's voice had lost its mocking tone. replaced by something colder, more precise. We are not so different, you and I. Both pawns in a game played by men like Harrington. Harrington was a patriot, Reeves snapped. Harrington was a manipulator who sacrificed Thomas Carson to protect his own career, Volkov replied. And now he has sacrificed you. Sarah moved suddenly, drawing her pistol and pointing it at Reeves. Put down the radio, Mr. Reeves. Reeves stared at her, comprehension dawning slowly. You're the mole. Intelligence officer, she corrected, assigned to monitor Harrington's unauthorized operations. He's been running a shadow program for years, outside CIA oversight. You shot him, Reeves realized. He left me no choice. He was about to expose 3 years of carefully cultivated assets. She gestured with the pistol. The hard drive, please. Volkov's voice came through the radio again. As I said, Michael, pawns in someone else's game. Reeves looked at the woman before him, then down at the compound where Volkov had already disappeared from view. The extraction team was safely away with Jennifer. The mission, as defined, was complete. But nothing was as it seemed. You know I can't let you leave with that drive, Sarah said, her expression hardening. It contains evidence that would compromise dozens of ongoing operations. Operations like allowing a Russian operative to develop a dirty bomb on American soil? Reeves asked. Controlled opposition, she replied. We've been tracking Volkov's network for years. His plan for the aquifer was never going to succeed, but it did flush out Harrington's illegal operations. At what cost? Jennifer Carson's life? A calculated risk, one that paid off thanks to your skills. Sarah extended her hand. The drive, Mr. Reeves. Then you can return to your cabin in Montana. Retirement. Peace. Everything you wanted. Reeves studied her for a long moment. Harrington was right about one thing, he said finally. What's that? I've changed. The young hothead would have shot you without hesitation. Sarah tensed, finger tightening on the trigger. But age brings wisdom, Reeves continued, and patience. In one fluid motion, he activated the detonator concealed in his palm, a small explosive charge, placed during their ascent to the ridgeline, detonated behind Sarah, sending rocks and dust into the air. The momentary distraction was all he needed. Before she could recover, he had disarmed her, the pistol now in his hand. Harrington taught me that, he said, securing her with restraints from his kit. Always prepare for betrayal. You're making a mistake, Sarah warned. The agency will hunt you down. Let them try, Reeves replied, retrieving the hard drive from his pack. They've been trying to find me for 15 years. He collected his equipment with practiced efficiency, erasing all traces of their presence. Before departing, he placed a small satellite phone beside Sarah. Extraction team will pick you up in an hour, he told her. Plenty of time to consider your next career move. Where are you going? She demanded. Reeves looked out over the darkening landscape, toward the mountains that separated Uzbekistan from Afghanistan. Mountains he had crossed once before, a lifetime ago, with Thomas Carson at his side. To finish what we started, he said simply, to keep a promise. 3 days later, Michael Reeves stood before a modest gravestone in Arlington National Cemetery. Thomas Carson's final resting place was marked with a simple inscription, "He served in silence." Beside him stood Jennifer Carson, 27 years old, her father's eyes looking back at Reeves from a face he had only known from photographs and surveillance reports. He never told me about you, she said. In all his letters, all his stories, he never mentioned his spotter. We didn't exist, Reeves replied. That was the nature of our work. But you existed to him, she countered, touching the gravestone. He kept a photograph. You and him, somewhere snowy. No identifications, no markings. Just two young men smiling at the camera. Pripyat, Reeves said softly. 1986. 3 weeks before Chernobyl. We were tracking a defector. Jennifer nodded. You saved his life there. He wrote about it in his journal. My guardian angel with a sniper rifle, he called you. Reeves smiled faintly. He saved mine in return, many times. They stood in silence for a moment, united in memory of a man who had shaped both their lives. What happens now, Jennifer asked finally, with Volkov still out there? With what I found. Now you go back to your life, Reeves said. Analyst Langley, keep your head down. Let someone else worry about Volkov. And you. Reeves didn't answer immediately. His gaze drifted across Arlington's ordered rows of white markers, generations of soldiers who had answered their nation's call. Among them, James Harrington would soon join their ranks. His body had been recovered from the training facility, his secrets dying with him. There's a new generation of guardians now, he said finally. Younger, faster, more adapted to this changing world. But none with your experience, Jennifer pointed out. None who understand men like Volkov. Reeves turned to her, studying the determination in her eyes. Her father's determination. The hard drive, she continued. What was on it? Names, operations, decisions made in darkness that couldn't bear the light of day. By Harrington? By all of us, Reeves corrected. The world you live in exists because of choices we made. Some of them were wrong, most were necessary. Jennifer considered this. Will you tell me about him, my father, the real man, not the redacted files I've pieced together? Reeves nodded slowly. Some of it, the parts that matter. From his pocket, he removed a weathered bullet casing, a memento from that mission in Odessa, where everything had changed. He pressed it into Jennifer's hand. He would have been proud of you, Reeves told her, not because you followed in his footsteps, but because you carved your own path. As they turned to leave the cemetery, Reeves felt a weight lifting, not disappearing entirely, but shifting, becoming bearable. For 15 years, he had hidden from his past, from his purpose. Now, standing in the lengthening shadows of Arlington, he understood what Harrington had been trying to tell him. Age had not diminished him. It had refined him. Every line on his face, every ache in his joints, every hard-earned lesson. These were not weaknesses, but strengths. The weapons of a guardian who understood the true cost of protection. His phone vibrated with an encrypted message. Coordinates, a request, a new mission. Jennifer noticed his expression change. They found him, haven't they? Volkov. Reeves nodded. Intelligence suggests he's regrouping in Odessa. Full circle. You're going after him? It wasn't a question, but Reeves answered anyway. Someone has to. Not alone, she said firmly. I've been authorized to establish a new analytical cell. Off the books, reporting directly to the director. We need a field advisor. Reeves raised an eyebrow. I'm too old for field work. Says the man who made a 2,300-meter shot 3 days ago. Jennifer's expression softened. My father trusted you with his life. I'm just asking for your knowledge. The sun was setting now, casting long shadows across the gravestones. Reeves looked out over the cemetery one last time, at the final resting places of men and women who had answered when duty called, regardless of age or circumstance. Silent Guardian, he murmured, remembering the code name he had once carried. That's what they still call you at Langley, Jennifer confirmed. The old-timers anyway. Reeves turned to her. Decision made. One condition, we do this my way. No politics, no bureaucracy. We identify the threat, we eliminate it. Clean and precise. Jennifer extended her hand. Welcome back to the agency, Mr. Reeves. As they walked together toward the cemetery gates, Reeves felt something he hadn't experienced in 15 years. Purpose. Not the fiery zeal of youth, but something deeper, more tempered. The quiet resolve of a guardian who had seen the worst the world could offer and still chosen to stand against the darkness. Age hadn't ended his story. It had begun a new chapter. The world still needed guardians, even the silent ones, especially the silent ones.